She was the face of the 90s. Symmetry made human, calm, composure, control. Cindy Crawford looked like certainty sculpted into skin. But what if calm is just a disguise? What if the stillness people call confidence is really a kind of armor? Long before flashbulbs, she'd learned what silence could protect, and that lesson would follow her through every photograph she ever took. She already knew how fast something perfect can disappear. What did she have to pay to look unbreakable? Super Bowl 1992. A red Lamborghini, a dusty gas station, denim, silence. 30 seconds. And the world stopped breathing. No dialogue, no story. Just a woman stepping into the frame like destiny itself. It wasn't an advertisement. It was a coronation.
She is an amazing icon, she is sort of the Marilyn Monroe of the 80s and 90s.
Cindy Crawford didn't just appear in the 90s. She organized them. Her face turned chaos into symmetry. American Vogue, August 1986. Then British Vogue, Elle, Cosmopolitan. Between 1988 and 1998, over 400 covers. Not exposure, dominance. George Michael's Freedom, filmed by David Fincher, sealed the myth.
Once again, George decided not to put himself anywhere in the video. And that's where I come in, along with my dear, dear friends.
Naomi, Christy, Linda, Tatiana, Cindy. 5 women, 1 visual empire. Versace turned them into kinetic sculptures. Avedon made them immortal. In Milan, she was the anchor of Gianni's army. In Paris, the cool elegance of Chanel. In New York, Calvin Klein's closing note. Revlon made her face part of the morning routine. Omega made it timeless. She hosted MTV House of Style and sold Pepsi in the same breath, fashion and pop culture folding neatly into one silhouette. But what happens when the image becomes louder than the person inside it? The symmetry that made her famous started to erase her edges. People saw perfection, not humanity. Fame, after all, is a mirror that reflects until it erases. She built control before she ever knew she'd need it.
A typical day I don't really have. I have if I'm in New York, I work 9 to 5, I get up, go to work, I finish at 5, I go to the gym, I have dinner with friends, maybe see a movie and go to sleep. But I hardly ever have really those kind of days because I travel really, really a lot. So, and when you're on trips, you usually get up really early and work till late and then collapse at night in a hot tub.
Before the cameras, a flat horizon, freight trains, and the hum of small-town Illinois. DeKalb, 20,000 people, 1 high school, endless sky. She grew up in a middle-class household, ordinary, steady, the kind that measured success in effort, not attention. Cindy was the middle child, precise, watchful, never restless. Equations made sense when life didn't.
Well, were you like a really good-looking girl in high school? No, Dave, she was terribly homely.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't the most, what is it, they vote like homecoming queen?
Mm-hmm.
I was never that.
You were not the homecoming queen?
I was like a pretty serious student.
Did you study? Good? You get good grades then, huh?
Yeah, pretty good.
And at the same time, around 16, you get discovered by a local photographer, right? Mm-hmm. But your first foray or audition to modeling didn't go well. How did that work out?
Well, it was one of those overnight successes, right? That takes 5 years to get, from DeKalb to the cover of Vogue.
Then, one afternoon in 1982, a photographer from the DeKalb Night Weekly asked for a picture. She was 16. Braces, soft light, a face still undecided. The photo ran, the phone rang, and the quiet girl from Illinois was suddenly an image.
But through him, that started a chain of events that eventually got me to a modeling agency in Chicago. But the first one I went to, they were like, I don't know, and what's that thing on your face? You might have to have that removed. And it was, not the warmest, kindest, fuzziest introduction.
Within 4 years, she'd be in New York, signed to Elite, learning how to stand still while the world moved around her. What if ambition doesn't arrive with confidence, but with calculation? She didn't stumble into fashion. she reverse engineered it.
To be honest, I looked the right way at the right time and I was in the right place. But also, I think once you get those opportunities, you have to be prepared and work hard. I've always been very professional, showed up on time, do the job, do my homework.
Modeling for Cindy was never about beauty, it was about design. Every gesture measured, every breath timed, 2 degrees of chin, 1 second of stillness, perfection rehearsed until it looked like instinct. Her Brits caught her under Malibu light, the air vibrating with salt and ease. Lindbergh found her in storm gray silence. Avedon framed her against glare so bright it stripped away illusion.
Schönheit heißt für mich ganz besonders auch schönes Haar. Deshalb habe ich die Schönheitspflege von...
She could read a lens like others read a room, knowing when movement meant music, when stillness meant power. Designers trusted her with their most fragile creations. Versace Spring, 1991, gold chains that moved like armor. Valentino Fall, 92, crimson silk that followed her breath. At Chanel, Carl called her the American modern. She didn't crave chaos. She turned repetition into rebellion. Reliability became the new mystery. And in a business obsessed with unpredictability, she made discipline seductive. She measured everything. Because once, something couldn't be measured. 1989. House of Style premieres on MTV. A network built on noise gives fashion its first translator. Cindy wasn't lecturing. She was decoding. Couture for teenagers, Versace for living rooms, runways for suburbia.
Welcome back to House of Style. I'm Cindy Crawford. Hi, welcome to House of Style. Yves Saint Laurent, almost everybody's favorite French designer and one of the all-time great fashion talents, has found a new face to wear his famous makeup.
She interviewed Naomi, Linda, Gaultier, Todd Oldham. Her tone was calm, curious, never condescending. She looked like the industry, but spoke like its audience. For the first time, a supermodel had a voice, and people listened. What happens when the calmest person in the room becomes its center of gravity? She made fashion feel approachable, even intimate. That composure, the effortless fluency, wasn't natural. It was practiced, a form of quiet defense, because once she'd seen what real helplessness looked like. And when that memory returned, she turned it into structure. Before the lights, before the gloss, there was loss.
When I was 8 years old and my brother Jeff was 2, my mother got the diagnosis that my brother had leukemia. I think when my parents first told us that my brother was sick, we didn't really understand what it meant. They didn't use the word cancer. We knew that all of a sudden we were going to the hospital a lot. He was going almost every day for radiation, and it was a 2-hour drive.
Cindy was 10 when her younger brother Jeff died of leukemia. The family didn't know how to process it, so they did what many families do. They stayed silent. The subject vanished from dinner tables, photographs, conversation, and that silence grew roots.
Without really ever talking about it, all felt like it should have been one of us. Like, why couldn't it have been, like, Dad wouldn't have been so hurt if one of the girls would die. Like, we were expendable in some way. You know, you're a kid, you put these things through your head.
For years, she never spoke about it, carrying it quietly through adolescence, through fame, through perfection. Control became a language, every line, every choice, a way to hold the world steady. Only decades later, after becoming a mother herself, did she finally speak about Jeff, not as tragedy, but as purpose. It was the reason she began funding pediatric cancer research, the same science that might one day save another family's silence. By the time the world saw her, the fortress was already built. What people mistook for serenity was survival, and survival, in her hands, looked like grace. While the decade celebrated excess, Cindy designed longevity.
An exercise video that was very successful that also I produced. So I had little forays into doing my own projects, but leaving a very lucrative cosmetic contract to do a skincare line was a big gamble on my part, but I was ready for it and I wanted.
1992, Shape Your Body. Fitness turned into aspiration. 1995, Omega. Elegance that ticked with time. 1996, Basic Face. No illusions, just ritual. 2004, Meaningful Beauty. Science packaged as grace. 2009, Cindy Crawford Home. Luxury turned domestic. She built systems before anyone called it a brand. No scandals, no meltdowns, only structure. Where others flared and vanished, she scaled. Reporters called her unshakable. They mistook composure for ease, but she'd already survived the only loss that mattered. Everything else was logistics. 1991, marriage to Richard Gere, America's golden couple.
I think I was 22 when we met.
I'm sure I was starstruck. You know, Richard is an amazingly interesting person. He's gorgeous to look at, but he's also really, he's interesting. He seemed so worldly to me. Like he knew so much about everything. Not all of my friends thought it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
1995, divorce, headlines, speculation. She never explained, never performed. Fame is like sunlight, she said once. You need it to see, but too much burns. She learned to live in the half-light, visible but never consumed.
Meanwhile, Cindy just celebrated her 25th anniversary with husband Randy Gerber. The two are parents to a daughter, model and actress Kaya Gerber, and a son, Presley.
Beneath the polish was purpose. Cindy became a leading supporter of pediatric cancer research, funding the same labs that once treated her brother. When she walked those halls again, she wasn't a model, she was a sister, rewriting the memory. By the 2000s, the term supermodel felt too small. And she knew it. She moved into real estate, philanthropy, legacy projects. The face became a blueprint. When her daughter Kaya Gerber entered modeling, Cindy didn't warn her about fame. She gave her structure. Fame is noise, she said. Find your rhythm inside it. Kaya's early Vogue covers echoed Cindy's own. The gaze steady, the posture exact, the calm inherited. The magazines of the 90s are fading now, their pages soft at the edges. But that face, poised, deliberate, unmistakably human, still feels current. Not because it was flawless, but because it was practiced. Decades passed, but she never disappeared. She evolved. The world that once worshipped youth has finally caught up with time. On today's runways, the faces that once defined the 90s walk again. Cindy, Naomi, Christy, Linda. Proof that elegance doesn't expire.
The world puts a lot of pressure, obviously, on women as they age. We still can have fun. We can still be beautiful. We can still be visible.
She didn't outlive her era. She became the reason it never ended.